Okay, so before we actually do anything else, we actually do need to talk about Fire Force Online, or Fire Force Reignition, whatever you want to call it. Now, if we're being honest, Fire Force Online is genuinely not a bad game. It's just not good either. Now, I'm not going to sit here and start nitpicking about optimization and this and that, but I actually want to talk about the core issue, in my opinion, with Fire Force Online, and that's the progression. I genuinely feel like the progression is unentertaining, it's uninteresting, it's almost loathsome. Fire Force Online genuinely just doesn't try to make its progression systems interesting or entertaining, and I genuinely do kind of have a problem with that. Not only does it get super tedious, it just feels like it's a waste of time. For instance, I finally was able to start doing the level 20 medium quest. Me and Sage were doing it on stream yesterday with some other AGZ gang and SageZ gang members, and we almost immediately noticed that the EXP gain from medium quest is almost significantly lower than you get when you're doing normal quest. Not only that, medium quests actually take longer to do than a normal quest. Honestly, it's bad enough that the game's main form of progression is spamming phone quests over and over, but when the harder quests not only take longer to do but are clearly not as rewarding than doing the easier versions, it just makes the whole game feel pointless. What am I actually doing here? Because even when I do get to max level, the only form of content I'm going to be doing is farming bosses for drops, trying to unlock artifacts or marks to get stronger, and what do I do with that? PvP? But as I said in my video 2-3 years ago, this game's PvP system feels outdated. And if I said this game's PvP system feels outdated 2-3 years ago, and the game has re-released in 2025 with the exact same combat system, well, honestly, it's just as bad, if not even worse. But that's not even the main thing we're going to be talking about here. We're going to be breaking down what I don't like about the progression, and not only going to be breaking that down, I'm going to do some comparisons and, you know, add some suggestions. So without further ado, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, let's get into it. Now, as I stated just a second ago, Fire Force Online's progression is genuinely just deterring. It makes you not really want to play the game because there is no variation between the quests. In my opinion, it's just the worst version of Jujutsu Infinite's progression, where you just spam mission board quest over and over. It's just as bad, if not worse, because this is actually kind of worse. Now, I will give Fire Force Online credit. At the start of the game, whether you're becoming a Fire Force member, a white clad member, or even an infernal, the developers did actually try to add a way of interesting gameplay. Whereas with the Fire Force, you have to do actual civilian tasks by helping the police officers in order to gain enough credibility to actually join the Fire Force recruitment process. You join, you do the exam, and you become a Fire Force member. Vice versa with white clad, you talk to the criminal, you do some crimes, and then once you get enough notoriety, you're actually able to take on the initiation or the recruitment process to become a white clad member. But after that, that's when all the trying went out the window. It feels as if the developers just genuinely didn't want to add anything to the game to make it more interesting in terms of its progression. Because after you actually join a faction, the only thing you actually have to do until max rank is spam phone quest. And I'm so sorry, that is not entertaining. Now, for some reason, they thought adding mission boards to the revamp or the re-release of the game is gonna make it any better. There's not even a point of using the mission boards, because what's the point? I don't know if it was added to troll or it was just a low effort attempt to say, hey, we've added more things to the game, but it's actually kind of an insult, for being quite honest. We've had almost 3 years of mission board Roblox anime games, and you've heard everybody complaining about mission board quests, and you added a mission board to the re-release of Fire Force Online. I don't know if developers are out of touch or are actually just doing this on purpose at this. Let's get back into what can be improved. Now, Fire Force Online doesn't actually have any biome. You're ranking up, spamming phone missions and quests, but there's no places to explore in this game. It's just the main forest, maybe the desert, etc. But the biomes don't actually offer any sort of immersiveness or forms of exploration. It's just different areas of the map. Once an hour has passed, a raid will start and you need to capture some flags or move the capture point. The best way I can relate this to a different game is maybe something like Voxel. When you progress to a different biome, once you reach a certain level, you need to wander off into a new area, and each biome has its own theme, its own enemy types within that biome, and you can expect to find NPCs where you can interact with those NPCs. They're going to give you unique quests to do, and those quests are going to not only take you into the biome, further into the biome, but it's going to make you interact with that area in some way, shape or form. Whether it's collecting a certain material you can only find in that area of the map, or fighting a certain mob that drops a certain material that you're going to need in order to probably craft a new armor or weapon, or send you on a multi-part quest line in order to probably unlock some sort of dungeon or to take on some sort of mini boss within that area. Games like Voxel Blade, Pilgrim, and even Runeslayer introduce different areas of the map to the player as they progress, and all of those different areas or biomes have different things that players need to do and interact with within those biomes that are actually different and unique for each of those biomes. Wandering into somewhere like the tundra within Voxel Blade is going to be a completely different experience than going into the shroom magic area within Voxel Blade. Two different experiences, two different gameplay immersions, different mob types, different things that affect your characters happen within those areas. However, in a game like Fire Force Online, you go to the desert and it's just that, a blocky desert that doesn't have any sort of mob types that spawn within those places. There's no mobs that spawn within those places that are unique to the desert. It's just there for the sake of being there. It's just a Roblox map. There's no immersiveness or interactiveness within these different areas within Fire Force Online. And again, even if you could interact with things, what would be the point? Because you start a phone mission and it teleports you to a random area where you do a random quest and you just spam that over and over. There's no real interesting gameplay formula in Fire Force Online. And I know you guys are gonna say, oh, but Axe, the game has dungeons now. The game has dungeons now. I'm not too sure what the correlation is between Roblox anime developers and making the most lazy dungeon systems I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if you guys actually play video games or any MMORPG like games in general. Maybe just play like something like Elden Ring. I don't know. But Roblox anime developers have a weird obsession with making the game modes that say dungeon on them just wave of enemy simulators. Enemy wave simulator. It may as well be a tower defense game at this point, because these guys have no idea what dungeons are. And I'm not even just talking about Fire Force Online. However, we're gonna go back to Fire Force Online. In Fire Force Online's dungeon system, you may come across a rift in the overworld. If you interact with it, you and the other players that have interacted with that rift will get teleported to some area, Forgotten Lands, desert-y, rocky place. Regardless, there's a bunch of different orbs and you can select which of them you want to do. Some of them may contain the mini boss, some of them are waves. You have to fight enemies, is the point. And that's it. You fight waves of enemies within an instance area. That is not a dungeon. That is not a dungeon. And I kid you not, the reason why this is also just really bad is because the game's combat system kind of sucks. So when you're fighting multiple enemies that are actually not that hard to defeat individually, but when there are a bunch of them bum rushing you because of how clunky and janky the game's combat system is, you're gonna lose. Unless you're like max build, of course, but you're gonna lose. And it's not even the fact that you lose or win, it's just the fact that it's not fun. This isn't really content, and I'm very sure, as I'm not an experienced developer, but an experienced developer can put this stuff together within a couple of days, if not a week. Honestly, it's not content, it's not progression, it's not content, it's not entertaining. It feels just slapped in the game for the sake of putting it in the game. And take a look at this. Now, this is an old video of mine, but I genuinely feel like on the whole of Roblox, there are only a few games that actually get the concept of dungeons correct. Vesteria being one of them, and obviously games like Deep Woken being the other. Now in Vesteria, obviously there is a dungeon called Spider Queen, and in this dungeon it has multiple phases inside of it. Now this is very old gameplay from like 2019. Obviously you load into the dungeon. Once everyone's loaded in, it starts and you take on the first layer of the dungeon. The dungeon kind of works in different areas or different instances. There's multiple segments to the dungeon, right? Let's full screen this just for the sake of the video. So once it starts, the first area, there is mobs or wave. There's a bunch of spiders you need to defeat. You need to clear that room before you move on. Sorry, this was a very competitive dungeon back when it first came out, so people were time trialing it. Anyways, you clear the room as fast as you can, obviously, because people were tryharding as fast as you can, and you move on to the next segment, right? Once the room is clear, you move on to the next wave or to the next room. Now in this room, it makes you interact with the game. So get out of here. Super giant spiderling has been spotted. There's like a mini boss inside of here, so it's dangerous to be inside this room. You're trying to clear this room as fast as possible. As you can see, there's a timer. This timer is going down, so you want to clear the whole dungeon as fast as possible to get on the leaderboard. You need to repair the bridge. Now in this segment, not everybody jumps down. Everybody has the assigned roles in the squad. There's going to be 4 different cogs that you need to come back and put on the bridge. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. The main one is the 4th one. So out of the party, there'll probably be one person that stays on top just to make sure everything's clear, and then the rest of the party is going to jump down into the cave and go get the cogs. In this instance, I was not one of the people that went inside of the cave to get the rest of the cogs, mainly because I'm a hunter, and obviously hunters are squishy. So you had the other party members go inside, clear the mobs out, and in one of these little tunnels or little barrows, because it's a spider cave, there's going to be little burrows that the spiders dig into. There's like a mini boss that's very powerful and can one-shot you. So you need to get the cog and try not to die. Again, the point of this area is to get the cogs and rotate as fast as possible, right? So you're not going to want to clear the bosses, or you're not going to want to clear the mobs out. You're going to want to try get the cogs without getting into a fight with the mobs. Come back, put the cogs on the bridge. Sometimes it takes long because some people have to fight your way through. Some situations where it's like the cogs are a bit surrounded by mobs, you have to kind of clear it out if you're strong enough, right? You put the cogs on, boom, bridge goes up, and you run across the bridge. Be careful because you can fall, right? Now the next room is the parkour room. No, this isn't the parkour room. Okay, so run for your life, a giant spider has been spotted. This room, you need to clear all the spiders, and you need to go to the bottom to defeat the mini boss. So you clear the spiders by the exit, and you make your way down because it's the most effective way of clearing all the spiders. Be careful, because if the spiders stack like that, they can one-shot you. Boom, there's a mini boss here that is gonna need the whole squad to clear out. So when you'll have the hunters, the people that deal the most DPS, clear out the top and then aggro the mini boss to an area where everybody else can fight it. So the hunters engage on the mini boss, and then the other units, whether it's like a tank or a fighter or a mage, will clear out all the other spiders that are inside the burrows, because there's a burrow here, there's a burrow down there. So we start taking out the mini boss, and when the other party members finish clearing out the smaller spiders, everybody gets together and starts killing this as fast as they can, right? We finally kill it, we move on. Again, you're trying to get through this as fast as possible. And you see how this dungeon, there's different sections where you have to take on different tasks. You're interacting not only with the map, you're interacting with your squad members, because everybody is useful. If one person messes up, the whole dungeon has been ruined. Your time has been ruined. You're most likely not going to be able to fight the boss, because the final room is the main boss. You need everyone alive for the main boss. So everybody has to work together here. This is real immersion within a video game, not this trash spam phone quest stuff, right? All party members need to be near the exit to advance. Parkour. Now it looks easy, you just need to jump on these to the other side, but if you fall down here, you're getting one shot because there is a bunch of spiders, unless your reaction time's really quick and you can avoid getting hit by them. But usually if you fall down there, you're dead, right? It's easy, it looks easy because we were tryhards. However, it's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy. People were complaining about this when this first came out. Next room, you need to kill all the spider eggs. If you take too long, spiders will spawn to try kill you, to stop you from destroying the eggs. Now obviously, again, we're tryhards, so we're doing this quickly, but these eggs, the stack of eggs, have a bunch of HP. We're all damn near max geared out at this point. That bow I had was super powerful. I had like 4 cursed scrolls on it, and cursed scrolls have a chance of getting destroyed. Now this lair is it's not easy, but it's not hard. There's a bunch of mini spiders and they stack together. If you get hit by stacked mini spiders, you get one shot. Literally, you get one shot. So it's a bit techie. Again, we're all doing this. We're trying to get through this as fast as possible. So DPS matters, right? Boom. Now the next section. This is hard. If you fall all the way down, since it's a long drop, you're most likely, unless you're a tank, going to die. You're going to die if you fall all the way down because there is 4 damage. This room is probably one of the hardest. So you gotta clear the spiders at the start because he can make you fall. Obviously, if you're a hunter, it's a bit easier because you have double jump and you have a dash. But if you're not a hunter and you don't have double jump, it's definitely harder. Some people fell down, but at the bottom there are springs that jump you up. So if you know the map, you can fall down and jump on the spring and try and make your way back up. But there's a bunch of mobs on your way back up, so you're gonna have to clear them out or defeat them or try avoid them. Now you're in the room before the main boss. You got to take out the invincibility towers whilst the spiders trying to kill you. So again, you're interacting with the game. There's interaction. You have to actually do things. Everybody has a role. Everybody is doing something. It's not just fighting useless waves of mobs like every other Roblox anime game does on this silly platform, because developers are so lazy, right? And then after you defeat this mob, you go into the main spider room where the mob comes down. There's a little cutscene. There's a way to glitch the cutscene so you can start hitting it faster. But again, we're all experienced players. Everyone here has like maxed out gear, so we're taking the spider boss down pretty quickly. But the spider boss is not easy and the health does not go down this fast. Everyone here had like maxed out gear, and it's super hard to get maxed out. It was super hard to get maxed out gear in this game during the beta alpha stages of this game's life cycle, because yeah, you really had to pour in hours to get maxed out gear. So as you can see, someone even died. Our tank died. So yeah, like dungeon game modes are meant to be interactive. Now the way it would be implemented in something like Fire Force Online is probably like make an area where White Clad, Fire Force and Infernals can safely form parties and queue up with each other to take on this area or take on the dungeon. Obviously people can fight each other, so make it a safe zone and probably put a fast travel merchant inside the safe zone so players can get there instantly without getting hard farmed by bounty hunters. And it's a Fire Force game. You have loads of inspiration in, what was it, season 2 or season 3? It was season 2 where they went to the underground White Clad tunnel base place where a bunch of the Fire Force members had to take on White Clad men. You can do some sort of expedition or excursion where they literally went to another region that had like a bunch of Infernals just wandering around. Like there's so much things you can do with Fire Force Online, but they not doing it. They're not doing it. And in my opinion, it's so lazy. The game got a revamp. There was so much that could have been done. Now, yes, you could have remade the combat system, but even if you didn't want to remake the combat system, there was still actual forms of content that could have been added to this game. But there wasn't. This game has no content. It's boring. And I don't even want to progress to max level because I don't want to sit down and spam phone quests for 5-6 hours straight. Who wants to do that? And the final complaint I've seen a lot of people have is mainly just getting wiped. A lot of people feel like there was no point wiping slots if the game didn't actually add any new form of content or didn't revamp the game. PvP, the combat system's exactly the same. Progression is exactly the same as it was before. So there was actually no point wiping people's data. And I agree with that. If they didn't change the way progression worked, why wipe people's data? I would have understand if they completely revamped or rehauled progression and then wiped everyone's data because they wanted people to experience the new progression system, but they didn't do that. So why did you wipe everyone's data? For what? There's nothing new about the game, so why did everybody get wiped? Answer me that question, please. I got what you got. Now, I'm not complaining, but obviously people who actually played the game before the shutdown are not the most happy right now, mainly because they grinded for what? And that's true. What did you grind? The game's exactly the same as you last. Let me see you guys in the next